Testing. One, two, three. Test, test, test. Hey Big E's, welcome to the stream. Hey Buster, welcome to this. Buster Maston, welcome to the stream. Is the audio coming in all right? Test, test. Sounds like it is. How are you guys doing on this fine Saturday? Thanks, Buster. Thanks, Big E's. What's going on with you guys this fine Saturday? I once again have no axe to grind. I try not to have axes to grind. Sometimes I do. But after about the 30th or 40th one of these, I kind of quit. You know, unless something just comes up and slaps me in the face, I'm pretty much bereft of ideas for what to do this live stream about. So I'm pretty much just open to questions. I do my tip out of the book, ramble on about whatever's going on with me. You're looking in this video behind the picture at my wife's 55-gallon tank. It has had about 12 Goiter River, we think Goiter River babies from the quarantine tank and into this 75. We added them the same time we added the, I think we got 6 dwarf neon rainbows from Lucas's strain when we went to Lucas's, and so we added the baby rainbows to make room for the RU2s in the quarantine tank. I caught as many as I could. There were about 20 of them. Hey JAWB's Aquariums, welcome to the stream, man. I caught all the baby Goiter Rivers out of that 20-gallon quarantine tank that I could and put them in this 75, my wife's 75. And they seem to be getting along just fine. These baby Goiter Rivers with the, let's see, we've got 1 adult male and 2 adult female Goiter Rivers in this tank, still alive from the 17 or 20 that I got from Jim. I don't know what killed them all. I still don't know. I treated for darn near everything. I finally started, someone recommended medicated flake. I think Rachel O'Leary said that sometimes rainbows don't do well to medication in the water and that you need medication in their bodies, i.e. medicated food for parasites. And I finally got some, and Susan also recommended a cellar for medicated foods, and I tried them out, and I guess it did the trick. I'm just not really sure, but it's been about 8 weeks since we've lost a fish out of that 75, and that was before, I guess it's been almost a week now, before we added these fish to the tank. And so far, knock on wood, they all seem to be doing well. It's going to be quite the crowd when they all grow up again, but I think the 75's big enough. There is also a copper colored rainbow that is an Australian rainbow. Um, Buster says he keeps some medicated flakes and he uses it when he quarantines fish. Yeah, I'm not real big on prophylactic medication, but if I spot something, I will sure hit them in quarantine. I know a lot of people choose to medicate everything that they get, and I can understand that in a sense, but I come from old school. In the 70s, medication was almost as dangerous as not using it in your fish getting a disease. So, the fish were just barely able to survive the medication and hopefully killed the parasites. So I tend on the side of less medication, but that's not to say that I recommend that to everyone, because what happens is when you tend on the side of less medication, then something comes up, and my first response is a light medication, something that's not as dangerous to the fish themselves in my sense, and what that often leads me to, sometimes it solves the problem just fine, like using Melafix or Pimafix, but often what happens is the illness, the parasite, the whatever it is worse than the lower level medication that I try to use, and then I'm forced to get stronger and stronger and stronger with my medication choices, and that often leads to what we went through with this 75, where you go through a long winding course of adding stronger and stronger medications to a tank and still losing fish. And it was pretty disheartening to lose so many big rainbows. I got like 17 goiter rivers and one turquoise and 3 or 4 coppers and a couple of Bellarii from Jim. I made a haul, but I think they were infected with a parasite or gill flukes. Hey Kevin, welcome to the stream, man. When I got them, and they just didn't do well. Hey Susan, I was just talking about you behind your back, telling these people that you were one of the people that suggested that I use medicated flakes in this tank, and gave me a seller that turned out to be wonderful for those medicated flakes. And I think that those medicated flakes are the reason why this tank has finally... Hey Phil Emerson, welcome to the stream. I think the medicated flakes are why this tank is finally free of, knock on wood, free of illnesses. So thank you, Susan. So I don't really have a topic today. I can give you all some news on the Peru trip front. My application for my new passport, renewing my passport, is in, and I have dropped $2,000 on plane tickets. That will get me there on Thursday, the 14th of July, and get me out of there on the 22nd of July. I think that's a Sunday. So I'll be missing on my live stream that week, although if it's possible, I hope to try to do some kind of live stream from down there, or at least post some videos for you guys. I hope to be filming my butt off, and I Hope to have plenty, plenty, plenty of content. And that will be in July, the end of July. I've asked Michael for the $35 certificate, which allows me to bring 7 fish into the country without all the CITES papers. I'm not sure how many fish we're going to catch. Me too, Kevin. I can't wait to film pics of wild corridors. You know, you never know what's going to happen between now and then, or what my skill will be, photography skill will be when I get there. I may goof a lot of it up with bad camera work, but I really hope to get some content of us in the boat, talking to Ian Fuller, talking to Michael, talking to the guides, the helper guys, and I hope to get a lot of footage of what it's like to actually collect in the wild. You know, I'm going to be doing it. Hey, Ray's Fish Room. Welcome to the stream. Ray says, hi, Dwayne. Do you believe with experience over water changing can be too stressful for fish, say like 70% weekly? I've been hearing some fish keepers say too much is not good. Just your thoughts, thanks. Ray, I have always been a firm believer in doing regular 20% water changes. I will tell you that the people that I grew up around and the people that I studied in my 20s were people that highly recommended 50% water changes at least weekly and maybe twice weekly. If you go look up Mel on Capote Mel on YouTube, you will see some of his gigantic tanks. He's got 750-gallon tanks. He's got 500-gallon tanks. And he keeps huge cichlids. And he does mostly Central and South American cichlids. I would highly recommend that you guys check him out. He has always done like 2 or 3 50% water changes a week, and even those gigantic tanks. And the old school guys stress that really huge regular water changes are great for your fish. But I'm going to tell you that, hey Laura, welcome to the stream, that in this day and age, the water that is coming out of our tap may not be as good for our fish as the water that used to come out of the tap back in the day when all the big discus guys and all the big cichlid guys were stressing 50% changes at least a week. I would prefer to do 3 20% changes a week. And while it does not actually cut the buildup of stuff in the water that a 50% change will do, I would recommend, and anybody that's been on my channel much knows this, I would recommend using a TDS meter to give you an idea of how much water you need to change to get that TDS reading back in line with what it's most always been in your tank. Now, that being said, if you've been doing lax water changes for a long time, then you're going to need to do a lot of water changes to get back down to where it's mostly nitrate-free water in your tank. And I would recommend TDS testing of your tap water so that you know what your tap water is, so that you understand that the water, yeah, Laurel, that's my wife's 75 with all the new babies in it. The baby dwarf neons that we got from rainbows that we got from Lucas, and the baby, most of the baby goiter rivers that came out of our quarantine, 20-gallon quarantine tank. I just thought I'd give you guys a little picture. If you watch closely, you'll see at some point I throw some food in there, and they're all active and acting like fish again. For so long, that tank, they all laid on the bottom all the time because they were fighting whatever it was, gill flukes or whatever I had, whatever parasitic disease that was killing all my fish. Hey, Victor, welcome to the stream, man. So, Ray, I would recommend TDS testing of your tank and TDS testing of your tap water so that you have an idea of what it is that you're trying to get your tank water back down towards if you have high nitrates or other organic products in your tank that are being read by a TDS meter and are causing your water quality to be less than perfection. It's easy if you use a TDS meter to measure your tap water and then use it to measure your tank. 9 times out of 10, your tank is going to be a lot higher. Thanks for stopping by, Susan. Right back at you. Give your better half a hug for us. You test your tap water, you test your tank water, then you do a 20% water change and test your tank water again and see how much closer it's gotten back down to the tap reading. Then if it's still way off, wait a day, do another 20% water change, check that TDS again, because what you're doing each time you do a water change is you should be pulling some mulm, some organics, some waste out of the water, and then by adding the new water, you're lowering the TDS in that tank, unless the TDS of your tap is super high and you have to use RO water or something like that to get the right water quality for the fish. Then that's how I would recommend you decide how much water changes are good for your tank. Now, if you test your TDS on your tap water and it's 220, and you test the TDS on your tank and it's 600, then what that tells you is that there is a lot of nitrate, that there is a lot of organics, that there is a lot of stuff in that tank that you need to get out of there. But you don't want to do 100% water change and drop that 600 TDS back down to 200 on your fish all at once. You're going to kill your fish. That's old tank syndrome. You do a huge water change, your fish all die because they've gotten used to that really high TDS, that really high nitrate. So the TDS meter is a wonderful tool to use to give yourself not only a picture of what's going on in your tank, but also as a picture of what that water change you just did to affect the water in that tank. So if you got 220 at the tap and 600 in the tank, and you do a 20% water change and it's at 520, then you know you've got a long way to go. But because it was so high, my recommendation is not to do a 60% water change next. My recommendation is to do a 20, and then a few days later do a 20, so that those fish have a slow gradient back down to what your tap water is again. Like maybe over 6 weeks, you slowly lower the tank back down to, say, 300. And if you watch your tank with your TDS meter and you've gotten it down to 300, and by the end of the week you notice that it's 340, do that 20% water change. And maybe you'll get like 290 out of your TDS meter. So I can't tell you how much water change to do. I can tell you that there are reasons, depending on your water, to not do huge water changes. And I can tell you that a TDS meter is your best tool to use to get an idea of what is going on in your tank. Now, there are some people that live in places like out west, Corey, Corvus, Bob. Those guys have no TDS in their water. They're getting a TDS rating of about 24. So they don't really need to do all the TDS testing unless they're trying to keep African cichlids who need a very high TDS, lots of calcium, lots of stuff like that, or unless they're trying to keep Neocaridina shrimp, which need it in the 3 to 350s at least, and can do well up to probably 400. 400 may be a little bit too much, but up in that area. So the TDS meter is less useful for guys that are getting that kind of water, or for people that are using pure RO water. But even the people that are using pure RO water need a TDS meter to test when they remineralize their water. I hope that gave you some kind of answer. I know it's all over the map, but I hope it did. Dank Tank says, finally switched out my 304B to a 303B. The 304 had way too much flow after I fixed it for the 33 long. The turtles got the leftover 304. Turtles will be happy with lots of flow. And I'm glad you got your flow down where you like it, Dank. But your fish are probably happier. Dank says, I like to do the good old whirlpool technique with my water change. And Dank, after saying that, you're going to have to tell us what your idea of the good old whirlpool technique is. So my tickets to Peru, I'm going to spend 38 hours in transit to get there. I have to leave a day early, and it's going to take me 38 hours to get there. And I have a 12-hour layover in Lima, Peru, which seems to be the place where most people land, those that aren't going to Iquitos. Okay, I got you. Dank says I stick my algae scrubber in and swirl in circles to get everything lifted. Victor, a bus might be quicker. Sometimes I think I could swim quicker, but you got to deal with scheduling as it is. So on the way down, I'm going to spend 5 hours in the Houston airport. I tried my best to find a way to get the 10 hours to be in the Houston airport and the 5 hours to be in Lima, Peru, but that's just not going to happen. I have a 17-hour layover in Lima, Peru, which I'm of two minds about. One, Laura, Bob seems to be backing out a little bit. He's got something going on that some kind of personal thing that's giving him issues and may continue to give him issues right into the trip window. Jimmy doesn't want to go, and beside the creature comforts that he does not want to give up, I have a good idea what the other reasons are, and I don't blame him a bit. But I was really hoping Jimmy would go because of his photographic ability, his ability to use the drone. I think there would be some incredible footage from that drone. Plus, I wanted to use that drone to spot little water pools further back into the jungle that may have never been checked before, that nobody really knew were there, and we could struggle our way back in and spot maybe a little pool that has been housing a evolution of fishes for a long time. You know, sometimes fish get cut off. When the water level's high, they're all over the place. But when the water level starts getting low, they go to the deep holes. And sometimes they get cut off from the rest of the population. And when that happens, in the sense of it not being ever able to leave that small water hole, you know, there's a lot of little ponds and pools that are spring fed. Sometimes you can get an evolutionary change in fish that have to find new niches to fill in a new environment that they did not evolve in to begin with, and that's when you can get some new species. Jeremy, Sergeant Tank Pets. The first step is admission, therefore I'm an aquatic fish keeping addict. And Jeremy, you're in a good place, baby. We all feel your pain. Our wives and our husbands all feel your pain. Hey, IFG, welcome to the stream, man. I'm honored with your dropping in. Anybody that's in the stream that doesn't know who IFG is, I'm jealous because you're going to get the chance to meet a guy on YouTube that puts out some of the best content that I know of, and you are going to be stunned with the depth and width of his content. If you need disease problems solved, if you need to know how to do something, then you need to get over to the IFG channel. No thanks, IFG. You deserve it, man. Anybody that's been watching long enough in this fish fam that knows what's up knows about IFG. We need to get you on the Fish Fam news. Laura was asking about who else was going, and I talked about who wasn't going. Now, Joseph, I keep screwing his name up. I'm sorry, Joseph. Joseph from the Fish Fam News, which is where you'll know him from, is also talking about going. I don't know if he's bought his plane tickets yet, because for me, that's the largest chunk of money. $2,000 is a lot of money for someone like me to spend on a fixed income. So I know that Joseph has income from his Patreons, and I don't know, maybe tickets are not so bad. You know, from Puerto Rico, maybe the tickets won't be so bad from the islands over there as they are from the States down there. So he's possibly coming. There was some talk of Corvus Oskin coming. Joel might or might not come. I know on the boards that that Corey introduced someone named Jason. I'm not sure who that is. I probably need to do a little checking, but he might want to come too. And there has been talk that Dean from Corey's fish videos might be coming as well, and that would be great because Dean has some real experience doing this already, and he could kind of be the lead guy for us. I was talking about my 17-hour layover in Lima. I'm of two minds about it because on one hand, I'd love to go out and take some pictures. That'll probably be when it's dark, but I could still, yes, that's Joseph G. Bear, and welcome to the stream, man. He's talking about going. Talking about going and spending the money are two different things, so we'll have to see how it goes. If he's bought his tickets already, then you can pretty much figure he's in, because the actual cost of the trip itself after your initial $500 deposit is only about $1,100. So the worst part of the money is spent if he's done his plane tickets already. But I want to walk around Lima and get some photographs and maybe get some shots of the mountains around there. There are incredible mountains there. I've seen the Alps in person. Now I'm going to get to see these mountains. The mountains in that area, Port Maldonado. Hey, Port Maldonado is very close to Machu Picchu, and it's pretty much a hop over the mountains from Lima. So there's some incredible mountains around there, and I'd like to get some video or shots of those at least. I wouldn't mind getting some shots of Lima even at night, just, you know, what kind of view I can get of it. But the problem is that I'm hearing a... G-Bear says, funny, Nicaragua, Peru, and Ecuador were in the top 3 places to move your money to go far. Well, I've moved a little money there, but it's not been an investment of that sort. Yeah, $700 a month and you would be loaded. Yeah, I could probably retire there on my disability, but there are other issues involved, and one of the issues is the issue that makes me of two minds about walking around and taking photographs and just strolling through the city, even at night as a tourist. There's been a lot of crime there lately. There's been a lot of buses waylaid, all the people robbed. There's been a lot of theft kinds of crime. So I'm kind of leery about spending a lot of time out on the street. Hey, Lumpy Dog, welcome to the stream, man. I hope you guys have a good dinner. And you have a great day, too. Hey, Glass Boxes, Joel G. from New Zealand, welcome to the stream, man. Well, if Joseph says he's coming, then I'm glad to have the Fish Fam News on board with us when we go. Maybe Joseph has a drone. Dank Tank says if you act like prey, you will be taken as such. I'm not prey, Danks. I'm about 6 foot tall and 270 pounds and long hair, bearded looking mug. Someone that tries to rob me is going to have a big surprise. But on the same token, I want to survive to get through this trip, and I don't want to die over something stupid and cheap. So, you know, money can be replaced, but a bullet wound, that might be worse. But I'll stand my ground. Somebody tries to run by and grab my camera bag, I'm going to jerk them back on their butt. So I'm not too worried about it, but I'm also concerned about getting into a situation where, you know, I just really shouldn't put myself. G Bear says his daughter went to Nicaragua for a Bridges to Community 2 years in a row. That sounds really nice. Um, I I I just want to have fun on this trip. I just want to film and photograph as much as possible. I want to have the camaraderie of the guys and learn as much as I can from Ian Fuller and Michael Barber. They've both been doing this for a long time, and they are probably both. Hey, Randy Bartlett, welcome to the stream, man. Um, they are probably encyclopedias of knowledge about this area and the fish that come from it and fish keeping in general. And I hope to tap both of them as if possible. I'm not sure how talkative they'll both be, but I intend to try my best to get them on camera and interview them and try to pry some of their hard-won knowledge out of their heads. I'll have to wait and see how that works out. They may be completely uninterested in doing that, and if that's the case, I fully respect that. But yeah, I am really looking forward to this trip. I all my life I've wanted to go to Iquitos because of all the fish that I've often lusted after that come from there. I have also always wanted to go to Brazil because of the elk cats that come from there. But sadly, collecting in Brazil is pretty much a moot point now unless you bribe major officials, and they probably won't let you keep the fish even then. At least going to Peru will be close to Brazil. There are loricard catfish in the area we are going to. They're much cooler water fish than the elk cats in Brazil, but I'm just so looking forward to it. This is something that I've always wanted to do. It's always been a dream of mine. I have, down through the years, I have followed people like Heiko Blair, like Rusty Wessel, all the guys that did collecting in Africa and the Rift Lakes. I have followed greedily the stories about their trips. Hans Evers is one that I'd love to also get a chance to really talk to. I got to meet Hans and listen to him at Aquatic Experience. For that, I'm forever grateful. And this is one of the places that Hans Evers has been spending a lot of time going to with Go Wild Peru trips to because there are so many undiscovered species in that area, because it's an area that really hasn't had a ton of exploration or a ton of work done to the fishes in that area, you know, like serious collections, like serious surveys, that kind of stuff still hasn't really been done there. I mean, people have been going there for hundreds of years, don't get me wrong. But it's still wild enough. It's still off the beaten path enough that there will potentially be new species there for us to gather. And I am so looking forward to that. If I do not catch a fish, if I do not catch a new species, I will be happy as I can be, because I will have at least gone fishing, has never been about the catch. Fishing has been about communing with nature, the camaraderie of those you go fishing with. And so if I don't bring back a single fish, I'll be grumbling to myself, of course. But I will be happy with this trip because of the chance to be in the wild where some of the fish that I love so much come from, and to see them in their natural settings, to study the parameters of the water, where they are, where they come from, to understand the temperature between day and night, between a rainy day and a bright sunlit day, to recognize what the lighting is actually like for these fish underwater in their local area, so that I can begin to see how much light there is at night for them. I don't expect there to be much light pollution blocking the stars, so I figured to see some really good light readings on the nighttime light when it's not cloudy or overcast, to get an idea if the little blue LED lights that we have on our home tank lights really are like what the fish experience in the wild. I guess I'll have to get up in the middle of the night and sink myself in some slightly deep water and look up to see if I can perceive how much light's coming in. But I'm perfectly willing to do that. You guys have let me ramble on about Peru again for the better part of an hour. I'm probably going to be rambling on about this for the next 6 months. It's been a dream of mine for a long, long time. I've been keeping fish a long time, and it's always been a dream of mine to go where the fish are. Eric Bodrock says, be the fish. Well, I'm going to help myself be the fish by going to where the fish actually are. And to me, that has always been a holy grail, something that I wanted to do more than anything else. All right, guys, we're coming up on 42 minutes in the stream, 43 minutes. If you guys got some questions that you need answered, I'd be happy to do it. I guess we can do another tip from 500 Ways to Be a Better Freshwater Fish Keeper, the book that I keep throwing at you guys, and that the company that has yet to sue me for throwing it at you. Under Better Aquascaping, Tip 200. Is it safe to put bamboo canes directly into my tank? No. My wife says no already in the background. You might be able to...
Why?
Yes, tell us why, honey.
Because bamboo is a grass, and bamboo behaves like a grass, only it's just really, really tall. And that is that it's going to spread out runners all through your tank, and it's going to suck all the oxygen out of your tank. Okay. So any dissolved oxygen in there will be gone as soon as that thing starts putting out runners.
Well, this actually is about dried bamboo.
Dried bamboo?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about for aquascaping?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I interrupted.
No,
I did my own business.
I'm happy that you did. But do you think that dried bamboo would be safe?
Well, if it's totally dried in it, there's no part of it that's alive, but there's even a little part of it alive, it'll rejuvenate. So you just have to make sure it's thoroughly dead.
Okay, now I'm going to read this tip. Is it safe to put bamboo canes directly into my tank? Bamboo can be used to create a great visual effect in the right display, but if not prepared correctly, it can rot very quickly and cause harmful bacteria and fungal blooms. Soak thin canes for a week before use and remove the skin, a thin membrane layer inside the wood, from larger pieces. Soak these for several weeks or coat them with a clear polyurethane varnish. Did that give you any information?
Yes.
So there is obviously an issue with using bamboo that is untreated, that it can. Dank Tanks is asking, even if you run an air stone, I'm assuming, Dank, it's talking about aquascaping, so I'm assuming that their experts are saying that you're better off not just using raw bamboo in a tank, that it's better if it's been sealed. Now, I've never been a big fan of putting polyurethane painted things. Live bamboo can be highly poisonous. The stuff that they're selling as money tree or lucky bamboo, that stuff can be highly detrimental. The leaves are poisonous. It's not meant to be grown unimmersed under the water. It's meant to be grown outside of the water. So you stand a real chance of the leaves rotting. Then Dank Tank says, I want to do a paladrium, and need a plant that eats a lot to naturally filter the water below. Yes. In that case, I would recommend pothos. Yes, immersed outside the water. I would recommend the pothos. I would recommend the lucky bamboo. Just make sure that the leaves are not falling into the water. I had lucky bamboo in my tank for a long time, my 110-gallon tank, because I do not have a green thumb, and I was trying desperately to get some kind of plant filtration of the water going to break down organics and to lower the pH in that tank. So, but once I understood clearly that the leaves that were falling off of that, I had it hanging on the side of the tank where the roots were all in the water. But once I understood clearly that those leaves were actually poisonous when they dropped off and rotted in the tank, I quickly went about getting rid of the lucky bamboo, and well, I stuck it in a window in a cup, and I tried my best to remove all of those leaves. Now, the way I am about things, once I understood that those leaves were poisonous, part of me wanted to leave some of those leaves in there so that they might kill parasites, that they might cause disease to not be able to get started so well, that they might cause free swimming parasites to die. Part of my mind went naturally to the idea of there being something poisonous in the water that wasn't poisonous enough to kill the fish, but might be poisonous enough to hurt parasites and diseases. So it took me a while to get all of those leaves out of the tank, and every now and then I find one that's been pulled out from some corner and gotten stuck on my wave maker. All right, guys. I think it's about time to wrap up another live stream of the Bob Show. I guess I ought to quit calling it the Bob Show because Bob is back live streaming himself now. It's been winter time, and he has. I've seen him actually stream on Thursdays and Monday nights, I guess is what he's doing. But he keeps conflicting. The time he's doing it keeps conflicting with my Indiana Pacers NBA basketball team. So I'm sorry, Bob. I'm going to watch the Pacers. The Pacers are on. I'm watching the Pacers. I'm a hardcore Pacers fan. But anyway, it's been the Bob Show for so long now. I'm tempted to just leave it like that. Once again, I am honored and thankful for everybody that comes to the stream, that spends their valuable time listening to this crazy old man rant on about stuff. I hope that there are tiny tidbits of information and knowledge in the ranting that gives you guys a chance to further your skills. I hope that sometimes when I answer questions that I have direct experience with, or that I have book learning to give, that it helps. I depend on you guys to come in and ask questions, to give me something to talk about for an hour. Otherwise, I'll just say the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so I thank you regulars for it, and I thank people like IFG and Sergeant Tanks, Jeremy, and IFG is Evan. I thank those guys for dropping by occasionally and giving me and my live stream a huge perk up. Phil says, great teaching, Mr. Kitchel, sir. You are great. I'm not great. Phil, you need to look elsewhere for heroes. I'm just a fish hobbyist like you guys are. I make tons of mistakes. I can't pronounce the names. I occasionally give bad information. I'm just a hobbyist like you guys that is giving you as much anecdotal information as I can. Stuff that's not lab tested and proven. But I have been a hobbyist for a lot longer than many of you have. So in that sense, I have a little bit of extra experience to offer from the old school perspective and from the experience of having been there and done that and got the t-shirt. I hope that some of what I say is helpful to you guys. Laura, thank you so much for stopping by and listening. And we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same bat station.